Going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks today. And as I'm doing this, my mic arm is currently falling down, which isn't a great sign for this in terms of the Dallas Mavericks propositions. And it is completely snapped off now. So, Louis and Lewis, while I fix this, how are you doing? And run me through some of the ideas that we're going to discuss for the Mavs and the issues that we might come into.
Yeah, not doing too bad. Not doing too bad. I see Louis got is that your Arsenal shirt you've got on there?
Yeah, it's not my regular garments that I just wear.
Obviously, both our clubs have absolutely ransacked Chelsea, so you love to see it. Chelsea's down. Well, I say downfall. They just need to get over 1 million players, but so that was a highlight. But now back to the NBA. We need to get into some trade ideas, maybe some sign and trade free agent signings, and we're gone with the Dallas Mavericks this time. So get ready to get stuck into that.
It's just completely fallen off here. We've had an absolute mare. What I can do, I'll pull through though Fanspo, which is what we use for when we are building these trades. I'm not sure if you can hear me properly, but let me move out all of the ideas I had because I only had one, and it's probably going to be very similar to what you guys have anyway. So I'll throw the tab over and run me through the trade as I hold my boom mic up whilst my arms collapse.
Maybe we should add a bit of context, I guess, to what we're dealing with here, because the Mavericks obviously their big move of the free agency anyway was to re-sign Kyrie Irving, who they traded for at the deadline. I think it's, what was it, like 3 years? I can't remember the money. It's 120, something like that.
I'm not sure. I'd have to.
I think there might be a player option or a team option in the third year as well. Not too bad for me. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of multi-year Kyrie Irving contracts because I do feel like it's just a bit of a operational risk with him at any stage that he could just.
It's a big chunk in 2025. That's the contract on screen.
Yeah. So that would be my major concern is his health firstly. His just sort of I can't even think of what to describe it. It's just off the court behaviour. He's more of a year-to-year guy for me and see how it goes, but I just don't think that's realistic if they wanted to keep him. And I think they wanted to keep him purely because if they had not, it would have just meant giving up Dorian Finney-Smith, who was their best defender, and Spencer Dinwiddie, who was pretty good for them in their Western Conference Finals playoff run. A bit pointless. So I think they needed to retain the asset or keep the asset, even if he's not my favourite guy to have around for a long time. But I guess the difficulties that come with that is two guards who can't defend very well. You need a lot of defense around them, basically. And I guess a lot of the trades we're going to deal with here are going to be trying to get some defense and some length in there. I'm just guessing. I don't want to speak for both of you. But that's kind of what my thought process was a little bit.
Yeah, especially because Christian Wood's probably on the way out. So it's... That is something they'll look for. I think most of the trades you see with Dallas, I'm sure a couple of ones we get into, do include some sizable length for it or someone at the centre position. As you say, Kyrie obviously when he's playing, he's one of the best point guards in the league. But it's when he's playing is the issue. I do agree with you. I think they have just decided to go all in on the trade they did because not just to quote unquote save face because of how it would look if they didn't and he went somewhere else, but also I think when you've invested that much in a player, and he is a fantastic player in Kyrie Irving, obviously, even though the fit with him and Luka isn't natural and they'll have to carry on trying to figure that out. It's something that you have to fully commit to, and that is what the route they've decided to go. Looking at what they can do after that, we talked about the players they will probably target. The issue for them really is the players that they can actually use to trade or maybe get some of those players back, and it's not a lot, which we'll see when we go into it.
Exactly. So let's go through now. Let's not waste time. Let's run through. I know you mentioned that you had 3 trades, Lewis, before we jumped into this. What are your trades? Run me through them now, and we can digress. Because I don't think we're going to be on here for too long talking about Dallas. So let's go for it.
I will preemptively say this, not to poo-poo it all, but I don't think any of these trades are going to happen, and I don't think they're the best trades in the world. They're just the best ones I could find.
Yeah.
So the first one is apparently, and I got this off reading the comments on the bloody website itself. There's some murmurings about the Suns potentially being interested in Tim Hardaway Jr. I have not heard that at all. But because of that, this trade came up. And it was the Suns getting Tim Hardaway Jr., Holmes, which I can't even remember where he can actually be traded to since they traded him during the draft. So I know there's some caveats with that. And JaVale McGee just to make the money up. And then it's DeAndre Ayton going the other way, which I think undervalues Ayton quite a bit. That is saying he's had a stinky couple playoffs, and so now that this is all they can get from, which I don't think is the case, but it is one of the trades that is feasible, and I think drives home the situation the Mavs are in for trades, which is it is completely dependent on how people value Tim Hardaway Jr.
So yeah, this trade would have to wait anyway until August 21st, but then it would eventually be possible. In which case, I don't know why. That's from when I was messing about with Christian Wood. So ignore the Christian Wood part of that. Let me redo that. I've seen a lot of things in regarding to DeAndre Ayton and the Mavs doing a deal, whether it be for Christian Wood and a sign and trade and something along those lines, or with Tim Hardaway Jr. I think at this point, I know this is the series that we're going to do across the summer of what we would do for the organisation, some of the best trades we think. I don't even think it's great for DeAndre Ayton or the Mavs, because I don't really think it fits into what they would necessarily need from a centre anyway. But I also think it does undervalue Ayton too much.
Yeah, it does. This is not one I think is going to happen. I mean, I don't think any of them happen. The problem is when we say what we think we do with Dallas, well, I think when I look at it, there's just not a lot they can do. I think the most viable one, I don't have a trade for it, but there's quite a lot of the sign and trades around maybe Grant Williams coming there, which would help some of their problems. I think that one is a potentially more viable one than the ones that I've got that are actual trades. But even so, it's just difficult for them to be able to manoeuvre with the position they've put themselves in, really.
What's your other trade that you've got?
All right, so this is another centre. It still includes the Suns and the Mavs, but the Pacers are involved as well. And so this is, once again, I don't think the Suns would do this, but the Pacers, I'm not even sure the Pacers would do it, to be honest. The Pacers would get DeAndre and JaVale McGee.
Mm-hmm.
The Suns would get Tim Hardaway Jr. again, Daniel Tice and TJ McConnell.
Suns would get who, sorry? Daniel Tice.
And TJ McConnell, and then Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tim Hardaway Jr. will go to the Suns, along with TJ McConnell. Yeah.
And then the Mavs obviously get Miles Turner, which I think is a centre that would address quite a lot of their issues. But once again, I feel like the Suns just wouldn't do this trade because maybe it's, I don't know, I don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. is of the value where any of these trades really work. But for Dallas to be able to do any of these kinds of things, someone has to value on the level of somewhere near these other assets. So.
Yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. is in, I guess, a lot of the trades that I looked at purely because of his salary is quite.
Yeah.
He's just sort of palatable with a lot of the trades that you're trying to do. I think the Tim Hardaway, this is going back on the Ayton one, but I guess it's kind of prevalent here as well because you've got Tim Hardaway Jr. in there. I think that would be more appealing to the Suns before they got Eric Gordon, where their depth was looking a little bit thin. Obviously, they got their salaries concentrated on that starting lineup anyway, with Ayton as well, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. That they can have someone like Tim Hardaway Jr. come off the bench for them and provide a bit of score and a bit of depth when those guys are injured or need a bit of that. So the fact that Eric Gordon has come in there and kind of filled that role, I think I agree with you. I don't think a lot of these trades will happen either, and I know you said that. I just think, the Ayton one is weird. I do think he's been valued a little bit too much because he didn't do well in the playoffs. He hasn't done well in the playoffs for a little while, and his personality is a little bit worrying. But I do think he is a pretty good centre. He's getting you like 17 and 12, 17 and 10 usually, even in the playoffs. You can check his playoff averages; they're pretty good. He's just earning too much money, I guess, is the issue. But now they've got a decent depth. I think they've done well in the off season. I will probably have a full free agency pod at some stage where we discuss this. But I think they've filled out that roster quite well, to the fact that I don't think they need to trade Ayton for like smaller pieces, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the main thing with Ayton really above all is just on the team, but on the Suns, the role that he's being asked to play isn't really the natural role for him as a basketball player or how he usually plays, because the production that he's giving them isn't actually, and I don't want to turn this into a Suns podcast obviously, but the production they're giving him isn't actually what they require really. They need more of that defensive anchor, which obviously he'll have to try and be while also giving them the decent level of production and floor that he always does.
So, I mean, with that in mind, the two that I had in my sort of one was the one that's on screen here, where you got Tim Hardaway Jr. and the 2025 first round pick that the Mavs have for Jared Allen. Again, you can then aim at where the value is for this. I don't think it's horrendous value to get that back, considering what the Cavs want to do, but I don't really know where Jared Allen's trade value is going to lie. Do I think he's worth a bit more? Yeah. Do I think he's worth a lot more? No. And then this is where it cuts into it, where the Cavs do want to move him on, because you see all of the rumours between the two of them anyway. But there's this one and another. So whilst I build the other one, let me know your thoughts on this.
I don't think it's awful. I don't think the Cavs would do it, personally. I'm not even sure. I don't know the Mavs would love giving up first, but I don't think the Cavs.
The thing now, though, is you've re-signed Kyrie, right? And you've got to appease Luka. You've got Luka until 2026, well, 2025, because 2026 is his option. So you've got him for another 2 years guaranteed. If you don't do anything in terms of, and I hate the phrase "win now" for that, every team is trying to win now. But if you don't do moves, if you don't make moves that are looking to actively improve, if they go into next season with Dwight Powell at centre again, what's that saying to Luka Doncic about, we're a serious organisation? Mark Cuban is not going to sit there, I don't think, and be like, we won't do anything for 2 years and we'll wait and assess and see how it plays out. They've got to start trading them picks and start properly trying now.
They're on a timer.
Yeah, they are on a timer. It's funny. I can't remember what I was watching when I was talking about it, but it went through the history of like the last 12 years, 15 years maybe, of what the moves the Mavs have done around some of their star players, and he's truly awful. So it's not the greatest track record for it. As I say, they do need a defensive anchor, and they need a centre. So I think Jared Allen would fit the bill to a decent degree there. I don't think the Cavs would do that trade though.
No, I agree. I just don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. is the. Well, I mean, the round one pick is quite nice. That's top 10 protected there. I see 2027, their 2027 round one pick floated about in a lot of these trades. I'm not sure what. I just don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. is a tasty enough carrot to dangle for the Cavs in this scenario. I think Jared Allen is definitely someone they're probably listening to offers for. We've heard that a couple of times because he wasn't good in the playoffs. I guess it is maybe a slightly awkward fit offensively anyway with him and Mobley, because both of those guys are pretty limited in what they can do. So I can see them exploring offers for Jared Allen. I don't think his value is like George. I don't think it's that much more than this. I just think it's a little bit more than this. That's where I think that would maybe fall through slightly. But I like it for the Mavs probably. But I don't think it's really, really moving the needle that much.
What's your trades then, Louis? Come on, hit me with them.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to retool one because I realised Cam Reddish signed for the Los Angeles Lakers. But, okay, one of these I've got is... So, got the Hornets and the Mavericks in this one. It's Tim Hardaway Jr. again. The man has been shot to smithereens at this stage. Mm-hmm. And then the 2027 round one pick, which I just mentioned from the Mavs as well. And so in this scenario, they would get back PJ Washington, believe that'd be a sign and trade type of scenario. And then they would also sign Grant Williams as a free agent. I'm not sure what Grant's free agent situation is. Do we have like an update on that? Is he still just sort of lingering about there?
I've not seen anything on the rumours for it. I think they're just holding out necessarily at the moment to see.
He's restricted, isn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely restricted at the moment.
Yeah, so it'll be a free agency sign of him. So I'm not sure if that like will work or like how Spanfo works with free agencies and sign and trades and such. But I've been informed that this would work on some other level, so that's fine. I just think I guess that adds a bit more than just a centre. Obviously, they're missing that big, I guess, that anchors the paint, which you're thinking about here. But I do just think they need some more perimeter guys. I think that might be the more pressing issue here with guys like Kyrie and Luka. And Grant has, I mean, we've taken the mick out of Grant quite a lot, but he's a good defensive player. He's tough as well, and he'll protect like his star players. He's just a bit of an annoying guy, is the only thing that you have to deal with there. And I'm not sure if you've seen his invite to the. Did you see that party that's going around? I can't remember whose party it was. I think it's like the former Sixers owner. And it's just Grant Williams with like Jay-Z and Beyonce. It's quite funny. PJ Washington's a good player, though. and I think I'd trade for Charlotte players because I just think they've been in such a poor scenario for so long. They're sort of distressed assets that I quite like.
Yeah, I like PJ Washington as a pick, and this actually somewhat it aligns with the other trade that I had made, and the trade that I feel is it's harder. I feel it's more realistic, and it's also the type of player I think the Mavs should go for. They're not going to get a big money centre, and I think they need a defensive orientated centre, especially when you're going off of Kyrie and Luka. You need a big, in my opinion, you need a big that's either going to be, you go one way or the other. You go for that stretch big who's not going to be such an interior force, or you go for a full-on interior defensive measure force. And in doing so, I came up with this little one. It was for Chris Wood on a sign and trade to New York and the 2030 second round pick for Mitchell Robinson. Because Mitchell Robinson's been wanting out of New York. There's rumours of everything around it because he's been holding bench recently as well for New York and coming in and out of the team. I think he fits quite well within what Dallas need. The issue is trying to find the value because they're not going to take Tim Hardaway Jr. back. So then it has to be for Christian Wood realistically. I don't like Christian Wood. I don't think the Knicks would realistically be interested in Christian Wood at all. So then you're then going to have to get a third team involved in this scenario. And I couldn't think of the third team that's going to come with it. But there's the contract length that you'd sign Christian Wood to. Obviously, he's going to be earning a bit more than he would last time, but he's not going to be demanding silly money because he's not been that great. So it's where it then lands on it. But I think Mitchell Robinson would be a really nice fit for the Dallas Mavericks.
My concern with Mitchell is I do quite like him. He's mobile. He's a good rim protector.
He's 7 foot, like.
Yeah. The only thing is he's injured a lot. He does get it, like, and I think I was just looking when you got the Celtics up to do Grant Williams. Like, well, the Mavs did have like a pretty good rim protecting stretch 5 type of guy that they traded to Washington, who's now at Boston, and everyone's sort of heralding it as a really good move. And I do quite like the move, actually. In general, there's still some issues, I think, with that roster. It's just that, I don't think Mitchell's health is quite reliable enough. But the thing is, like, the value there for the Knicks is like this guy is not going to be in our starting lineup, not playing very much. Like I said, injury or coach decision, Tibbs decision otherwise. So I do quite like Mitchell Robinson. I just think how much that moves the needle is my concern.
Because you can't. They're not going to go out and they need a big. They need a solid big. Mitchell Robinson is that big, and you're not going to be able to go and grab someone that is of the upper echelons for how they're just baked in with their cap space. So I think in terms of where you're looking at, and then also players that are available potentially for trade. For me, Mitchell Robinson is up there on the call of it. Lewis, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, as we say, they need a big. Mitchell Robinson would definitely help them out. But do I think the Knicks would do that trade? No. So
see, that's the issue. You need a third team involved.
There's quite a few players that I think are gettable. at the centre position out in the market. Like, I think another one that would be a great addition for them would be a Clint Capella, and I think he's gettable, but not with what they have. Someone that would, run his heart out up and down the court, drive every time off the screens, and just put in a maximum effort would be a great player for them to have. But I looked at some of the trades involving Clint, and it's just they don't have the assets to go and get him.
I don't know why. With the trade market, it does feel like everyone is sort of hinging on like the big guys that we know are probably going to get traded at some stage here. Like, I think teams will be looking to see what happens with Dame, what happens with Harden. Jaylen Brown doesn't re-sign, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
Are you worried about that though?
So
Jaylen Brown's going to sign. I'm not. To be honest.
Well, yeah, I think they'll offer him the max money now. You'd be stupid not to sign it, probably. I just think people are sort of waiting and seeing what sort of like debris comes from this, and then that's when the trade sort of market will open up a little bit more. And then maybe that doesn't happen though. Maybe they stretch Dame out and try and force the best possible value. It seems like that's what they want to do anyway. DeAndre Hunter, that's one that I did think about that one actually. I can't remember what the trade was now.
That might have been one of the Clint Capella ones I saw. DeAndre Hunter's on. It's like a 20 mil contract, isn't it, per season?
Okay. Would you do DeAndre Hunter?
Oh, it's there.
For Maxi Kleber, JaVale McGee. Is that JaVale McGee still? Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2027 first round pick. I think I'd do that if I was the Hawks. And I think I'd do that if I was the Mavs, actually. I like DeAndre Hunter, even though he can go floating sometimes. One of those guys that you may, which I don't like, that you can come out of a game. So I didn't realise he was playing. But I do think that may be a symptom of playing with a guy like Trae Young. And I know Luka plays in a similar sort of ball-dominant fashion. But I do think he's a bit better at sharing the ball, and getting other guys involved and elevating other guys personally. So I don't mind Maxi Kleber. I think he's a good player. Injured obviously quite a bit of last season. JaVale McGee's just called like salary filler at this stage. And that round one pick, 2027, I just don't know which way the Hawks are going to go, to be honest. I know Quinn Snyder's got quite a lot of money to coach there, and they probably want to win now. They traded for DeJounte Murray, quite a lot for DeJounte Murray as a free agent next year. So, I mean, I don't think this really makes the Hawks a much better or much worse team, but that round one pick is quite nice.
Yeah, the issue is whatever way we dress any of this up. They could go out and pick DeAndre Hunter up and still go and solve out some of their center issues and their big issues. The issue is that if I look at it and let's say that they went out and let's say they even got DeAndre Ayton and they traded a pick or two away with it as well. I don't think they'd be crazy enough to put 2 first rounds, but Mark Cuban's Mark Cuban. He's going to throw the dice if he wants to. But if you look at it and they go and pick up a DeAndre Hunter, they picked up a DeAndre Ayton alongside the pre-existings if they kept Tim Hardaway Jr. and then of course Kyrie and Luka. Is this going to make the Mavs realistically compatible in the next season? Does it move that much for you?
And all these things give them a better chance, though. I think that is essentially what you're working with here, because although obviously there's not a ceiling of not winning the championship when you've got someone like Luka Doncic on your team and someone like Kyrie as well. These are pieces that would you ask yourself, do you think Luka could be the best player on a championship winning team? My answer would be yes.
Yeah.
It's just, how you construct that roster around him. And at the moment, I think the best iteration we saw, as Louis said, was when Porzingis was there. So it's and then the Jalen Brunson thing after that, it's just been wrong move after wrong move so far. Hopefully, they can turn it around.
Yeah,
indeed.
I think if you've got Luka Doncic on your on your team, you've always got a chance. I guess they got to the Western Conference Finals with a team that I wouldn't really think is very good, and I know they got absolutely ruined when they got to the conference finals. But it just will take us a step up from him, where I think he is like a generational player is probably an overstated term, but something along those lines. If he doesn't win a Finals MVP by the end of his career, I'll be shocked. Like, I'll be very, very surprised.
Who, Luka?
So, yeah, I'll be very surprised. So I think it's a matter of him that they need a better team. They need better pieces around them to sort of fill in his deficiencies. But I do think his overall quality will get them to a certain stage at some point. That he came pretty close before. It would just be a matter of time in that case.
It's going to be, and this is what I mean in regards to those picks. They've got a lot of first rounds, and they're going to, if they're not showing any signs by 2025, then Luka's going to be looking elsewhere because he's not going to hang about. I don't feel.
Yeah. I mean, at that stage as well, I can't be. You got to be envious of them still because they got Luka Doncic. So if he doesn't want to stay, well, we'll trade him, and he'll be getting an absolute boatload for him. I think there might not be a bigger trade haul than if you were to trade Luka Doncic personally. So, yeah.
The last thing I'll leave us on then, just before we wrap this one up here, and you mentioned it before with Luka, Louis, and you feel like if he doesn't win a Finals MVP, you'd be shocked. What I want to know is, do you two think that Kyrie Irving still has a sort of banging top tier form of a run of playoff games in him still? Or do you think the issues that he's had over the years, you just not see him sort of overcoming it again?
Well, I think there's two questions in there, really. One of them's, does he have the ability for it? And Miles, that would be yes, 100%. I think he could.
Everyone knows his box office. What I'm saying is...
but not even just box office, just his
he's a top 5 point guard in the league, but I'm saying because of everything that he's happened for him in the last few years, do you personally, can you see him having another one of those sort of mental playoff runs where you're like, damn, Kyrie's like him?
Do I think he could be one of the best performing point guards in the playoffs if he managed to get it? 100. No, I'm saying because the thing is though, if you ask me, do I think he could go on a great playoff run with this Mavs team? The answer is probably not, because I don't think this Mavs team is going to be one of the best teams in the West over like the next couple of seasons. Do I think if he's put in the position where he's on a team that could make a deep playoff run, that I think he's going to perform? I'd say yes, I do.
I think he was in pretty good positions in Brooklyn and Boston personally and didn't do it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's true, but I still think he can do it. He can still do it.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt about his talent, his offensive ability. I just think you can't keep sort of referencing or feasting off of a moment that happened 7 years ago, which is when he hit the game-winning shot in it wasn't a game-winning shot, but pretty damn close.
The iconic shot,
yeah. I do think at this stage, too many of his teams have turned out badly. He hasn't had the playoff run since then, which is kind of shocking. So, no, I don't think he can do it. I'll believe it when I see it, basically.
I think I'm not going to go as sort of mental to stay like last chance, but I mean, this is a big contract he signed. He's there for 3 years. He'll be getting 45 mil afterwards. If in those 3 years there isn't at least one decently long postseason stretch where he is very, very good, I do think come the next free agency, he'll be 33, 34. He will struggle to get good money.
Well, I mean, even in this case, he was kind of putting it out there. I'm chatting with the Suns. I might have a little talk with Houston. And it did seem a bit sort of kind of forcing a market a little bit. I'm not saying that teams weren't interested in him particularly, but I do think there's probably there were definitely reservations about giving him big long-term contract, shall we say, which I think is founded because his health and his just sort of overall demeanor and his team, I guess, morale type of effects that he haven't been great over this. Well documented, they haven't been great over the last couple of years, and he's cost himself quite a bit of money as well
he has.
So I believe he has the ability, but I don't think he'll ever do it personally. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do it in Dallas. I'll say that, but. Yeah, I don't know.
But then if you don't... hang on, so I was going to end it here. But if you don't think he's going to do it in Dallas, you think he's going to have the opportunity still to be able to do it somewhere else?
Well, I think he could have. I think he could have the opportunity. I still think he'll probably be...
But if he doesn't do it in Dallas, what teams are going to look at him and go, okay, so he didn't do it in Boston, he didn't do it in Brooklyn, and he didn't do it in Dallas. He's now 34.
It is damning. I agree it's damning. But, I mean, I can't look 2 years, 3 years into the future to see what the positions, teams, and he will be in at that point. But it's difficult because of how good he is as a basketball player. I just find it hard to say, no, he'll never be good in the playoffs ever again.
Which one of you said the top 5 point guard?
Me.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think in my head.
I still think he's a top 5 point guard.
Steph,
Luka. Dame, yeah.
Luca if you count Luca.
I mean, if we're talking about who I'd rather have, yeah,
Luca's a point guard.
If we're talking about who I'd rather have SGA personally. That's just me.
He's not a point guard, is he?
He is. He's definitely a point guard.
Shai Gilgeous
You think he's a point guard?
Definitely.
Yeah, but if you're going to class Luke as a point guard, you're going to class SGA as a point guard. It's just how these things are now.
I'm not doing something stupid like putting LeBron as a point guard.
No,
these are they play in guard positions.
But this is what I mean. Right, so I'll play devil's advocate. So you'd have SGA, you'd have Luca, you'd have Steph, you'd have Dame. Who's the other? So then I would personally have. I'd still take Kyrie over SGA personally. But I think that is very tight now. It's not like a couple years back, obviously with SGA anyway, but a couple years back, you wouldn't even have considered putting that in the realm. But now there's a conversation to have about Kyrie and SGA, which highlights sort of the times we're in when we're talking about Kyrie.
It's probably fifth for me thinking about because I wouldn't have CP3 anymore. Some of the younger you got Jar, but that's an entire.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Kyrie's issues, we're going to talk about John Moran's issues. And funny enough, I'm going to side with Kyrie on this one at the moment. So.
Well, I don't know.
I'd still be siding with Kyrie over some of the stuff that John Moran's doing.
I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm going through that list, and I'm like, Steph, he's point guard, but he's combo guard really. Luca, combo guard, really. SGA, combo guard. So, yeah, you do just kind of have to throw him into the
I think Kyrie's a better player, but if I'm having someone on a long-term contract who's going to be sort of like the point guard for my team, I'd rather have Jalen Brunson for like a long-term.
Yeah, but we're just talking about better player, like straight up.
I know, better players, that's fine. But I actually do think SGA might be a better player, and I'd rather.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. I mean, SGA was unbelievable.
If you're still here watching this, 30 minutes into this Dallas Mavericks trade video, put in the comments down below if you'd rather have SGA or Kyrie.
Kyrie hating comments. I mean, we've all sort of wax lyrical about his ability. It's just his everything else.
Well, no, but I mean, I've loved Kyrie Irving. I've got a Kyrie Irving Brooklyn jersey. It's the issue that I have with it is that if he doesn't end up doing it, and where you can class what does it mean to end up doing it? If he doesn't show some signs in this contract at Dallas, it is going to look ropey for him when he's 34, and the whole league is now like, okay, so he's failed 3 times. But yeah, it's. Would you rather have him or LaMelo Ball?
Definitely Kyrie. Out of interest,
that's
I think maybe LaMelo.
Sorry, just age and health and things. I guess you can make that conversation, but if we're just talking about players, obviously Kyrie.
I think maybe we should get players to get over 500 records before giving them $260 million. Just saying, but I forgot what I was going to say now. Who plays point guard for the Phoenix Suns next year? Then, if is it Book?
It'll be Devin Booker, I think.
Yeah,
but Booker will play point. But I mean, Devin Booker played point. Devin Booker played point guard when CP3 was
exactly. That's what I mean. Point Book's another option.
Point Book is going to be very good. I think Devin Booker's going to have an unbelievable season for Phoenix next year.
Yeah,
I mean he's been having unbelievable.
MVP. He's been good. Are you talking MVP?
I'm talking. But this is too early for it. I don't like talking about MVP talk in the regular season. I don't want to talk about MVP. No,
just a projection.
I think that the Suns team is going to be a very, very top tier team, and I think.
What a prediction!
I think he will be the best player on that team. So yeah, take that as you.
Okay. Well, we'll play the most games. Let's be honest.
He'll play the most games, and I think he'll be the most ball dominant player on that team. I'm not saying.
Are we saying KD is still not the bus driver?
KD's not. It's not his team. It's Devin Booker's team. Everyone knows that. Anyway, we're getting massively off tangent, and we can save this for another podcast down the line. Thank you very much for watching. If you do agree or disagree with any of the trades that we did, put them in the comments down below. Let me know in regards to Kyrie Irving and I can't remember the SGA. Kyrie Irving and SGA. Let us know down below. Consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll catch you in the next one. Give us some other teams for trade ideas. This was Dallas. Let us know some other ones that we haven't done. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace.